Welcome to Azeroth United, a weekly podcast about World of Warcraft. My name is Denethar, and I am your host.
Welcome, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. It's Monday night in Azeroth, and we have a great show lined up for you. This is episode 125 of Azeroth United. Not a huge milestone, but I do like those nice even increments. So we're a quarter of the way through the next 100 episodes. So it's kind of cool. So I'm having a good time. But anyway, we have a great show lined up for you. We've got a little bit of So I've been toying around with this idea for a while of the difference between classic players and modern players. And after the last interview with Holly, I really decided to kind of dive into it a little bit. So we'll get into that and all that discussion. And of course, the news and everything else. So pull up a chair, sit back, relax, and enjoy. And before I get into all of the news, I'll do a quick rundown of what I got up to last week in WoW. It was all anniversary all the time. I did log on to retail for a little bit to do some farming, some lumber farming, but I had to craft a couple things. But for the most part, yeah, it's been all anniversary. I got my hunter to 69, and which is... I'm so close. I was trying to get to 70 before reset. So I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll get it. Maybe not. Who knows? But that's where it is right now, 69. And I've been having a really good time leveling on anniversary. For the most part, everybody's really cool. People are really friendly. I would say, aside from a few weird encounters that I had, everybody's just been really cool. You're standing in front of where a quest mob is supposed to spawn, and everyone knows the quest mobs in the Burning Crusade are highly contested. So you're standing in front of one, somebody runs up, they just invite you to a group. They don't sit there and think, how can I challenge you for this spawn? They're like, no, we're both here together. Let's join a group. It's really cool. I did all of, so I've completed the first 3 zones. So I did Hellfire Peninsula, Zangarmarsh, and Terrakar Forest. Now, I forgot how bad Terrakar Forest was, because the forest part is fine when you're doing all this. Once you go into the Bone Wastes, though, God, you have to go into the Shadow Tomb and all that stuff. It's awful, especially as a hunter. And I'm constantly running around trying to make space. And for whatever reason, my pet is just not holding aggro. And I guess I'm just really feeling that burn for the level 70 growl. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of where I've been. Run a ton of dungeons. I have to say, Sethic Halls is probably worse than I remember. People are, so here's one of the problems that I've seen on Anniversary is that people are used to doing things the vanilla way, which is very reactive healing. And the healing in Burning Crusade is very much more so you have to be proactive when you heal. You've got to anticipate, which is why druids are so great, because they can just put hots on everyone. But if you're a priest, if you're a paladin, and you're not pre-healing or preparing to heal, or a shaman, you're going to be behind. And I saw so many tanks who were at half health, and then the healer started to cast, and it's like, well, it's dead. They're dead. It's a wipe. So, that to me, that's a big problem. And I don't really feel like I don't want to call people out on it necessarily to, in the middle of, hey, healer, what are you doing? That's not what it's not what I'm trying to do, but I do feel like it's something that a lot of people struggle with and really don't quite understand exactly what they were supposed to do. So, and I'm sure there's a lot of people who are now with dual spec, it's like, yeah, I'm a enhancement shaman, but sure, I'll heal. Because it's easier to get a healing spot than it is to get an enhancement shaman spot, especially after the armor debacle. But we'll get into that later. Yeah, so that's pretty much the biggest thing is that I've seen one. There's a difficulty with tanks. If it's a druid tank, I know it's going to be a struggle. And druid tanks are great single target raid tanks. They're not great dungeon tanks. And it really shows just how different and how overpowered the paladin tank is for dungeons. Now, when you get into raids, it's a different story because now the paladin tanks are a little bit more squishy because they have to sacrifice some of their capabilities for defense, for being able to hold threat with their spell power component. So, there is some differences there and some give and take. There's not a perfect tank. It's just there's really good tanks for really situations. What I've seen so far is that druids are really good single target. Paladins are really good AoE, and warriors are kind of an overall. They're better at AoE than druids, but not as good as paladins. And they're better at single target than paladins, but not as good as druids. So, I mean, it's fine. And then the healers, druids are the best healers. Then I would go probably priest. Shaman, maybe shaman is just really hard for people who primarily play alliance, and they're just struggling with it. I don't know, but I have not had a lot of good shaman healers, so that's unfortunate. There's a few out there, but I think that there's definitely a high skill curve, but people will get used to it. We're still in the first 2 weeks of launch. A lot of people have never played Burning Crusade before. They're not familiar with all of the nuance of how it all works. I forgot a lot of this because I didn't play in 2021, so I've forgotten so much of this stuff. And so for me, it's just really big to be back in Burning Crusade. And as I'm going through, we were having a conversation in Guild Chat the other night where we were talking about what's coming next. Because somebody said, well, obviously we're going to Wrath next. And everyone was quick to point out that, hey, maybe, but they haven't announced it yet. And I talked about the Titan Reforged servers in China, and I think everybody in Guild Chat was kind of perplexed because a lot of them hadn't even heard of it, and some people were they wanted to say, "Hey, that sounds cool," but they were afraid of because it is different. Somebody said it sounds like a private server, and it kind of does. But this is the type of thing that we are expecting Blizzard to cook up for Classic Plus. So my thought was maybe what'll end up happening is that instead of going to Wrath directly and just doing a repeat of Wrath, we'll just end up with a Titan Reforged type server that our characters can retire in. And so you can run all the content from 1 to 80 and it's all valid. It's all fun. And you can just do whatever you want. I think that's a possibility. If we don't end up going to Wrath of the Lich King. Same thing for the Mystic Pandaria progression servers. If those don't end up moving to Warlords of Draenor and they end up some sort of retiring, maybe we could have something similar to that. So I don't know. We'll see. Blizzard obviously isn't saying anything until probably BlizzCon. So we will wait until that point to find out. But anyway, in the meantime, here we are, and it's we're 2 weeks into launch, and I think people are having a really good time. I'm really enjoying it, but I'm torn because I also really want to play Midnight, and I'm really excited about Midnight. So what's going to happen is I'm going to get to 70. I'm going to get attuned for Karzhan and all that, and I'm going to tell my guild I want to ride the bench for now because I don't want to commit to a schedule unless something happens and it's just perfect. Then okay, maybe I will, but as it stands right now, I'm just kind of, I want to ease into, I'm not trying to put a lot of pressure on myself because I already have a lot of stuff going on between work and IRL to add on to that with the game. It's not something I'm really interested in. So anyway, that's what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. It's been an interesting week. There's a lot of conversations going on, a lot of people playing, but I can definitely sense that people are burning themselves out. The people who ran dungeons all the way to 70 and then now they're going back and doing the quests. I'm seeing a lot of people who are kind of frustrated with, is this it? Is this all we're doing? And that rush to the end is one of the things that burns you out, especially in later expansions of vanilla. It's a lot easier to kind of just chill and start up an alt, do different things. It doesn't feel quite the same in the Burning Crusade, especially since there's no GDKP. A lot of people are frustrated because they're like, well, I can never raid on my alt, so it's pointless. Why would I start an alt? So I don't know. We'll see what ends up happening. I think the servers are great, having a good time. I'm constantly having to fight for spawns, so that definitely means that while it's one mega server, the population is healthy on each of the shards. So that's nice. I don't end up on a shard where it's crazy and I can't do anything, or alternately where it's dead and it feels like I'm playing a single player game. So anyway, that's what's going on there. All right, let's move on to the news, and we have a lot of news to get through, and then we'll hit our main topic.
It's time for the news.
In Blizzard news, so right off the bat, we have a Blizzard related story. This isn't WoW related, but WoW had posted an article that says the Korean publisher Nexon has secured the rights to develop new StarCraft games. I'm not exactly sure about the details. The original article from the Korean news agency was obviously in Korean, so I don't speak Korean or read it. So I had to rely on the translations, but yeah, it's interesting. So StarCraft, for those who maybe aren't as familiar with StarCraft, obviously StarCraft is a real-time strategy game. It was first released in like 1998, and then StarCraft 2 was released, 2011 or something like that. But we haven't had a new StarCraft game since the Legacy of the Void expansion for StarCraft 2, which came out in November of 2015. So that's a little over 10 years ago. And I would love a new StarCraft game. The thing is that the rumor right now is that it's going to be a shooter. So the article says the most contentious piece of information is the project's home. Reports state the game is being developed under Nexon's shooting division, the branch responsible for the sudden attack. This strongly implies a transition from the isometric view of an RTS to a first or third person shooter. While this might alarm strategy veterans, Nexon has made a curious hiring choice. Key recruit Choi Jun-ho, a legendary figure in the StarCraft modding community known for the Temple of Destruction user map, hiring a modder who understands the fun factor of the original engine, suggests Nexon isn't just slapping a skin or generic shooter. They seem intent on transforming the mechanics of StarCraft into a new format. So what that basically means is it's probably going to be some sort of a shooter or a third person adventure game type thing where you have to like run missions or something like that. But they want to keep that StarCraft feel and flavor. So they're bringing in people who designed the original maps, or some of the maps that were in the game, not the original maps, but the user designed maps. So I don't know. So another article that they had posted, this is from a different, I forgot to write down the website. I'm sorry. I apologize to whichever website this is. I forgot to write down your name. Anyway, they're talking about the article Jez Corden posted on Windows Central. And also Jason Schreier talked about the franchise revival in his book Play Nice for StarCraft. But yeah, it says, however, RTS fans should temper their expectations. The leaks point away from a traditional strategy game. Instead, Blizzard appears to be revisiting the concept of a shooter, spiritually reviving the infamous StarCraft Ghost that was canceled in 2006. If you remember that debacle, that was a big deal. And yeah, there was a lot of people that were disappointed. There were rumors back in those days that we were going to get World of StarCraft, and that was going to be the sequel to World of Warcraft. Obviously, none of that happened. And it also says recent job listings for Blizzard for an unannounced open world shooter fuel this theory. After 10 years of silence since Legacy of the Void, a genre shift might be exactly what the series need to survive in the modern market. Now, let's not forget that World of Warcraft started as Warcraft, which was a real-time strategy game. And so the franchise and the IP itself have grown since those early days. I mean, if you go back and play Warcraft 1, it's a very different game. You have orcs and humans, and that's where the similarities end. Warcraft 2, there's some components that feel a little more World of Warcraft-y. It wasn't until Warcraft 3 where it's like, okay, these are basically the same universe. It feels like the same universe. Whereas obviously Warcraft 1 and 2, it's obviously it's the same universe, but things just don't flow quite the same. There's Death Knights, but they're like the Generation 1 Death Knights, and the Mage does all these things that it could do Blizzard polymorph, but it can have like invisibility, which obviously we have in the game now, but it wasn't available in early World of Warcraft. So they had to make some design decisions and change some things around for gameplay purposes. All that being said, we might end up with a new StarCraft game, which I would support 100%. Overwatch has kind of petered out and is dying on the vine right now. The Diablo franchise is doing better than it was after the Diablo 4 launch, but I don't think it's quite as robust as maybe Blizzard wanted it to be. Obviously, World of Warcraft and the Warcraft franchise is still their cash cow. So we'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. It's also interesting that this got farmed out. I guess this was something that was in the works for a while, so I just don't pay attention to all that sort of thing. Anyway, new StarCraft game coming down the pipe at some point in the future. So that's pretty cool. All right. Let's get back to World of Warcraft. We're going to do Classic first. I've got my show notes on here and it's like, I don't know what to talk about. So first of all, Blizzard has said that they have made some modifications to population density to the Burning Crusade Anniversary servers. Now, I don't know how true this is. There was a whole thing about the Ruined Arcanite Rod recipe, which is a limited purchase vendor recipe item, and it's being camped on every single layer by 10 people. And as soon as it shows up on the vendor, people have scripts that run in and grab it right away, and it's getting sold in the auction house for 100 gold. So Blizzard is trying to put in some sort of fix for that. They said they did it. I don't know what they did. They also said that they're making some modifications to the layering. So over the last couple of days, we've seen a lot of feedback from players that in many cases, there are too many others nearby when you're questing or doing gathering professions in the open world. Today, we've developed some configuration changes that should hopefully reduce the congestion while retaining the feeling the world is still well populated. Those changes will go live during our currently scheduled realm restarts in a few hours. We'll continue to keep a close eye on this going forward, and we'll adjust things further if necessary. What that is, I don't know. And the world doesn't feel any different to me, so I have no idea. I did the opening quest line for the Karazhan attunement, and there was easily 50 people in there. So I don't know. Maybe the layering doesn't work in the old world. I'm not sure, but it still feels pretty crowded, which is fine. It is a massively multiplayer online game, so I'm okay with there being a lot of people, but it's crowded. And so if they're trying to make some adjustments, I would say maybe they need to make a few more adjustments. So that's just my suggestion. All right, let's talk about this armor value bug that was in the game. So for those not aware, in the Burning Crusade Classic Anniversary, when everything first started off, and I believe I talked about this last week. I can't remember if I talked about this last week or not. There was some significant differences between physical damage dealers and spell damage dealers. So anybody that did physical damage, Feral Druid, Hunter, Ret Paladin, Rogue, Enhancement Shaman, Warrior, they all had ridiculous damage numbers. Playing a Hunter, I was going into groups and I was like, man, is everyone else just terrible? I know I'm not that good. What the heck is going on? I felt so overpowered. Well, we figured out what the problem was. The problem was that there was a bug, and apparently this bug has existed since the beta test on the test realms, where the mob armor values were 10 times lower than what they should have been. So instead of having, say, 4,000 armor, they had 400 armor. So the lower your armor, the more damage physical damage will do. The armor reduces the amount of physical damage taken. It has nothing to do with spell damage. It's only physical damage. So all the physical damage classes were doing way more damage than they should have because all the mobs had way less armor than they should have. I noticed something weird, though, in the, not Slave Pens, Underbog. In the Underbog, when you have to fight the Druid boss, so the Swamp Lord, whatever, and then he has a Druid pet, slave. So Druids notoriously have high armor in the Burning Crusade. That's like one of their biggest things. They have ridiculously high armor numbers. And so I'm going through and I know what my damage is. I can feel it at this point. And when we fought that boss, I was like, wow, this guy has, or I'm not doing very much damage to this boss. I mean, I guess it's a Druid, so that makes sense. And so after I saw this, it clicked. It was like, okay, so that character actually had the correct armor values because he was listed as a Druid, not as just a random mob. So that's why I was hitting him for so much less. And so now that Blizzard has fixed this, all of these physical damage classes are frustrated because they're like, wow, I feel like I got nerfed. The estimates are putting it at about 40% damage nerf for physical dealing classes. And classes like a prot paladin, obviously there's a physical component to it, but most of their damage and threat comes from spell damage. So they're still doing a significant amount of damage. The ret paladin, though, that's a lot of physical damage. Obviously, feral druid, melee and tank, hunter, rogues and warriors for sure. Rogues were already having a hard time getting into groups, and now it's even worse. But this is the way it's supposed to be. It's not like Blizzard said, oh, you know what? Screw you guys. You're doing too much damage. We're going to nerf you. No, they were like, oh, shoot, we messed up. Somebody typoed the armor values or however it ended up happening. I'm not sure, but it was a significant amount of damage. I was doing a lot of damage on some of those runs. There was actually a video by SFand, if you're familiar with SFand. He's a World of Warcraft content creator, YouTuber, Twitch streamer. He was very big on the post-nerf being problematic. He said, look, Blizzard, why would you release the raids in post-nerf? It's not as much fun. People want a little bit of a challenge. It doesn't need to be hard, but you should make, this is too easy. He was talking about how easy it was to kill the raid bosses on the test realms. Well, since this bug existed on the test realms, every group was going in there with all of these physical damage dealers. Remember, you have all these warriors coming over from vanilla WoW, where warriors were the king, and they were steamrolling the raids that were post nerf, which means after at a certain point along the way, Blizzard nerfed all of the raids and reduced the difficulty, reduced the amount of health that the mobs have or the bosses have, things like that. So they were going in there, steamrolling these guys. And so SFand is like, well, this is too easy. You should make it pre-nerf, make it harder. And so now that this has come and revealed, he's like, oh, actually post-nerf is probably going to be fine. Because he did a comparison from the damage that people were doing on the PTR or the beta servers versus what they were doing back in 2021 when Burning Crusade Classic launched the first time. And the maximum damage that people were doing in 2021 was like 1.2k, which is a lot, but it's, reasonable. On the test realms, people were doing over 2k damage. So it's a significant difference. And so I think we're going to be okay. I got used to the change already and I feel fine. I'm still going into groups and I'm doing really good damage. I'm holding my own. I feel like this feels much better. I actually felt bad. I was going in there and like not even getting my rotation right and topping the damage meter. I'm like, what is wrong? Something is off. So, yeah, that happened. So anyway, yeah, that's it's a very interesting change. Some people are really frustrated. There were people who were talking about switching. They're like, I played a rogue and I was having so much fun. Now it's no fun. So I'm just going to switch to a different class. I'm going to play warlock instead or something. So we'll see. We'll see how it goes. There's an awful lot of rogues, hunters, and warriors in my guild, though. So we'll see how that turns out. All right, let's move on to modern World of Warcraft. First off, the legacy loot enabled for Dragonflight. So if you want to go back and solo all the Dragonflight raids in Midnight, I mean, it's live now, but you can solo the lower raids, but you probably can't solo like mythic Dragonflight raids. It's going to be a little bit more difficult. But legacy loot for all of those raids, which means that instead of getting personal loot, which is items that are just for you, you can get any items that will drop like normal drops. So you can get all your transmogs and all the things like that, especially now with warbands. This is a really big deal. So you can go and you can run all those old Dragonflight raids. Especially once we get to level 90, it's going to be a lot easier and we're going to be able to tear through those. So I'm really looking forward to that and hoping that I can get some of those Dragonflight transmogs. Some of them were really cool. And I wasn't able to get all of those because I didn't do all the content in Dragonflight, especially the higher level stuff. So really hoping that works out and we can get some really cool Dragonflight loot. So if you are missing Dragonflight items from your collection, have no worries. It is now available for you as legacy loot. All right. There's a couple of things here that we're just going to go over. And we're going to kind of jump around here because there was just a lot of information released by Blizzard in the last couple of days. It's the lead up to midnight. And, we're getting ready for early access is going to happen next week on Thursday. So we're running up to the wire. So next week's show will be we're going to go over all of the changes, all of the new systems and everything that are coming to Dragonflight. Wow. that are coming to midnight. But there were some things that came out this week. So first of all, there's a new animation video that was released by Blizzard. This is the Xal'atath Supremacy video for midnight. This is a video. It was hard to follow at first until I realized what was going on. So this is basically Nexus King Xal'atath and his ethereal forces are fighting against Xal'atath's void forces in a pitched battle. The ethereals are fighting valiantly, but they're losing. And it's interesting to see this battle between these two forces that we don't like, right? The bad guy ethereals versus the bad guy void. Anyway, so Xal'atath is trying his hardest and we're never going to give up. And then Xal'atath appears. And I'll tell you right now, one of the things that I love about Xal'atath that Blizzard has done is leaning into the whole horror aesthetic for her. She's a terrifying creature. And, people who try and paint her as, oh, she's a sexy elf. It's like, this is a terrifying creature that you should not like in any way. When we paired or teamed up with her in season 3 in Koresh, it was like, okay, this is kind of cool because they're letting us see this other side of her, but we all know she's still evil. And it's not even that she's evil. She's just fighting for herself. And so everything that she does is about herself. And that's the whole point of this video, this cinematic, is that it's not about winning or losing. It's about survival. And so she basically tells Nexus King Xal'atath, listen, if you want to survive, you need to join me. Otherwise you're going to die. And so he looks at the cards and he realizes, okay. And so that's why the ethereals are teamed up with the void in midnight. Because I was like, it wasn't Xal'atath like against Xal'atath. He was Demencius. I don't know. The whole thing is confusing, but it's a really good cinematic. There's actually a portion of it when Xal'atath appears, she floats and she's flying down right above Xal'atath, like literally flying down from the sky right over his head, face down, because she's not mortal. She's not a normal creature. She's this weird void spiritual, I don't even know. So she can do all these crazy maneuvers. And it was like, yeah, this terrifying, So then she tells him, I'm going to tell you where I come from because basically I want to try and get you to relate. And we don't know anything about Xal'atath. And I saw this in a video. I forget who posted this video. But one thing that Xal'atath hasn't done is lie to us. She hasn't lied. She's tricked and manipulated us, but she's never said something that wasn't true. And in this, she tells Nexus King Xal'atath where she came from and how and it's this video of the void attacking her homeworld, and she's a child, and that child gets consumed by the void and turns to a husk. And that husk, there's a flash of purple energy. And so I guess we're meant to assume that was Xal'atath in her previous life as a mortal. And that's how she became what she is now, because she was kind of Silver Surfered out of her mortal form. So it's a really interesting cinematic. I definitely suggest checking it out. I'll put it in the show notes so you can watch it. This one's good. I like this kind of 2.5D animation where it's not quite 3D. It's done with cell drawings, but everything's animated in a I don't know. It flows really. It's like a live action comic book is what it feels like to me. So anyway, check out the new Xal'atath cinematic. I will put that in the show notes so you can look at that. Blizzard has released some information about the Arcantina. So the Arcantina is a new quest hub that we're going to be able to go to. There hasn't been a whole lot of information about this. I haven't talked about it a whole bunch, but this is the new place where we can go and get daily or weekly quests in midnight. I guess it's supposed to be a place where we can go and find different NPCs and faction leaders and things like that. So I'm not sure, but so what the article says is initially introduced in the season's comic, the Arcantina has become a not so secret haven for both Horde and Alliance. Within its cozy walls, the tavern teems with life. Upbeat music drifts through the air. Laughter rings out between friends, and old adventurers are fondly recalled over shared drinks. Where the void is bleak and cold, the Argentina stands as its opposite, a warm spark in the heart of every patron. This is a place to rest, to gather, and to soak in the atmosphere of a bustling watering hole. Whether you're stopping in to unwind after a long journey, or simply spending a little downtime with friends, the Argentina offers a welcome pause from the road. Yet even here, adventure finds you. Familiar faces stop by from time to time, offering quests or a story to share. Whether you're venturing out into Azeroth in search of relics of the past, lending a helping hand, or simply spending a little downtime with a few friends, there's a little something for everyone. Check back frequently, as the Argentina often sees quest givers alongside a handful of other visitors with gossip and rumors to share. You never know who you'll see next. Complete their tasks to earn rewards, and add a well-traveled charm to both the Argentina itself and a coordinated set of decor for your home. So it's kind of like a quest hub where we're going to get a new quest every so often to go do things. Sometimes the reward will be housing decor, as they pointed out there. Sometimes it's just different things. So I think this is their attempt at getting some lore back into the game. If you're familiar with the stay a while and listen feature in the game right now, when you do a quest, sometimes you'll get a chat option that says stay a while and listen. And when you choose that, the two NPCs will just have a conversation and kind of give you a little bit of flavor, a little bit of lore. You can skip it, no problem. It doesn't affect it if you skip it, but those who are more lore focused, you can sit and listen to that, and it gives you something to, it gives you a little bit more flavor about the world and a little bit more backstory sometimes about why the characters are doing what they're doing, where they come from, whatever the story details are. So that's what it feels like that they're trying to go for with the Argentina. It's a place where you can go have a drink and hear a story. If you've ever sat around a bar and bullshitted with your friends, that's basically the vibe they're going for. So to gain access to the Argentina, you'll first need to complete the Erator's Journey quest line up to the quest The Argentina from Kurdran Wildhammer. You'll receive a temporary key for your first visit, but upon completing the quest, you'll receive the personal key to the Argentina toy added to your collection. Forged from the remnants of Dalaran, it can return you to and back from the Argentina. So stop by whenever you need respite from the endless fight against Xal'atath and her sleepless army. Whether you're there to unwind or reconnect with old friends or learn from historic stories, the best tavern not of this world is only one turn of a key away. So there you go, the Argentina. I'm really excited to check this out. I think it's going to be an interesting place. I hope this doesn't end up as one of those things that Blizzard puts a bunch of time and effort into, and everyone's like, yeah, this is done. We're not going to go here. But I also don't want it to be wow, if I didn't do my Argentina this week, I'm screwed. My character's bricked. So I guess we'll see how that goes. But that's the idea, is that you can get there whenever you want. You'll have a little toy, like a new Hearthstone type thing for you to go to. And apparently there's a portal from the Argentina to Silvermoon, so you can go to the Argentina to get back to Silvermoon, so you don't have to burn your Hearthstone. So there's that. So if you've done any housing adventures in the past few weeks, you know how frustrating it is when you try to go back to your house and your housing Hearthstone, which you can't see the timer for, is on cooldown. So that doesn't feel good. Anyway, so that's coming with Midnight, and I'm looking forward to it. I'm just really curious to see how they implement it, if it feels like you're hanging out in a pub, or if it's just a new quest hub for you to go to. So all right. So this one was on the World of Warcraft Instagram page. They have announced an upcoming collaboration between World of Warcraft and Pinterest. If you're not familiar with Pinterest, it's a social media sharing, photo websites. I don't know. It's a social media site. Basically, what you can do is you can grab things off of the internet and put them on your board and then share that out. So if you're like, hey, check out all these cool new ideas for my, backyard, whatever, you can put them in your Pinterest, or here's all the cool things I found from my favorite sports team, or whatever it is. So the idea here is that you're going to be able to take pictures of your house. And there was a taking pictures thing data mined in Midnight, but we weren't sure what it was for. That's probably what this is. It's so you can take a picture in game of your house and then put it on your Pinterest board and then share it out. So for those of you who are not really feeling the player housing, I get it, and that's fine. But for those of you who are really interested in player housing, this is a great way to share your creations instead of just having to post them on Reddit or whatever. It just gives you another avenue to do that stuff, and you can do it directly from the game. So that's pretty cool. I have a Pinterest account. I don't ever use it because I don't, it's not something I'm really interested in, but, I mean, who knows? Maybe I'll share my Pinterest account on, all of my player housing stuff and put it on the Discord server or something, which you can get to by going to AzerothUnitedPod.com. So yeah, there you go. World of Warcraft Pinterest collaboration coming soon to you. All right. This one's tough. Housing decor now available for Hearthsteel in-game shop. So we knew this was coming. I talked about this a few months ago, and everyone was ready for it. But still, it's here now, and it's weird. Yeah, player housing decor is now available from the in-game shop for Hearthsteel currency. Now, first off, let's talk about what's available. So you get 2 pets that are decor pets. These aren't actual pets. This is like a plushie. So there's a beloved wolf plushie and a beloved lion plushie. Wolf for Horde, lion for Alliance. You can have both of them, whatever. They're $1 each. But that $1 you can only do with the Hearthsteel currency. Now, my concern with the Hearthsteel early on was that they would have the typical upsell trying to get you to buy more currency, right? Like, well, if you buy 1, it's $1. But, in this case, it's 100 Hearthsteel for $1 and then 500 Hearthsteel for $5. My fear was that it would be like, 550 for $5 and 1,100 for $10 and so on and so on. So you're encouraged to buy more and spend more money because you want to get the discount. Well, they didn't do that. It's a flat currency exchange. 1 Hearthsteel or 100 Hearthsteel is $1. 1,000 Hearthsteel is $10. 10,000 Hearthsteel is $100. So it's the same conversion rate no matter what you do. Now, I liken this to Disney dollars. If you go to Disneyland, if you're familiar with Disney dollars, it's a 1-to-1 currency exchange, and you're buying Disney money that you can spend anywhere at Disneyland, but you can't spend it anywhere else. And once you've converted it to Disney dollars, you can't convert it back, right? So that's basically what this is. It's just funny money, and it's their way. And there's a whole thing with the transactions. If you spend money on a transaction in game, it's more difficult than it is to spend money on a currency, and then you can spend whatever you want in game. You're doing one transaction instead of having each individual transaction. There's a whole marketing thing behind it, whatever. The point is, you could buy new currency. It's $1 for each of these plushies. And if you want to spend more, you can get, what is this? There's a plushie decor bundle. So you get 4 of each plushie for 500 Hearthsteel or $5. So that's where they're going to encourage you to spend more, is they go, hey, well, you can buy 1 and it's going to cost you this much. But in this case, you're going to get more of them because remember, housing decor, you have to purchase each individual item. So if you want 50 plushies to go into your creepy plushie room, you're going to have to spend a lot of money, real money on this. So the idea here is that you'll get 4 of each. So you're getting actually 8 decor items for your $5 versus 1 for $1. So, it's a better deal if you like that sort of thing. I personally don't care about either of these items. So I won't be buying them, but I'm sure plenty of people will, and that's fine. So, there you go. The new Hearthsteel in-game currency is live and ready to go. So enjoy if that's something you want to do. If you want to do it, if you want to spend your money on it, go for it. We're already spending our money on a video game. It's just not for me. And not that housing isn't for me. I love the housing. I just don't want these particular items. There might be something else cool on there that I do want, and I'll buy it, and that's okay. So there you go. All right. Let's move on from that, because that one's it's a live wire. Okay, so this one's interesting. Blizzard has put in the beta So it's not live in game yet, but in the beta, they are putting in a new way to earn currency from going to or interacting with player housing. So basically the way this works is, if you pick up a quest called housewarming, and if you go to somebody's house, basically you have to go to a gathering at somebody's home with 4 other players, so like your dungeon group, and you'll complete the quest. And the quest will reward you your choice of, here's the catch, you can choose 20 hero crests or 40 champion crests or 60 veteran crests or 500 voidlight marls, which I don't even know what that's for, or 3 augment runes. So you get to choose one of those options. So if you've got all hero track gear, you're going to choose your hero crests or whatever. Maybe you just want augment runes. I don't know. But this is what you're going to do. So the way it works is you get in your group with your 4 friends or your dungeon group, and you say, okay, let's meet at so-and-so's house. So you go to that person's house, everybody goes there, you complete your quest, you get your crests, and then you go to do your dungeon. Or maybe you do it at the end of the dungeon. Either way, the goal here is to get people to go and interact with housing. Now, Blizzard said that there would not be player power in player housing. This does feel like a little bit of player power in housing, but I feel like it's okay because it's just think about if you like a D&D campaign, right? How many D&D campaigns start with the players all meeting up somewhere, somebody's house, in an inn, whatever. So this is just giving that fantasy, and then there's a little bit of a reward for it. I'm okay with it as long as it doesn't turn into a slippery slope of, oh, and now you have to go do your housing dailies to get your crests, and you have to do your housing. Let's not do that. You don't even have to have a house to do this quest. You can pick up the quest even without owning a home in World of Warcraft. You could just go to somebody else's home. But if you get into a group with 5 players who don't have a house, they miss out on these crests. And that's where people have some concerns. And I get it, because you're not necessarily putting player power behind it, but you are encouraging people to do that, and you're kind of bribing them with, hey, here's some currency if you go do that. In addition to your choice of reward, you'll also get some Essence of Lumber, 500 more Voidlight Marls, 25 community coupons, and 34 gold. So there you go. That's it's a new thing. I think it's really cool. And that'll also be a really cool way for people to show off their houses. Like, hey guys, come check out my house. And then we can also do the quest. I think it's cool, but it's obviously not for everyone. All right. There's a new short story, Legacy of the Amani. This is the second of the short stories to be released. First one was with Magister Umbric and Grand Magister Romoth. This one it's about trolls. It's written by Graham Roswell, illustrated by Matt Hubble, and narrated by Mela Lee as Chieftain Zuljara. So you can read it in PDF form, or you can watch it on YouTube. There has the audio version. So I haven't read this yet. I didn't have a chance yet. So I asked ChatGPT to summarize it for me, and this is what I got back. The story follows Zuljara, heir to the Amani trolls, as she prepares to become chieftain after her mother is gravely injured. When a rival leader challenges her right to rule, she attempts to prove herself by retrieving a sacred axe from a dangerous mountain temple tried to the Loa Akelzon. After surviving a deadly climb and mysterious fall, she returns to find her mother killed in battle. Overcome with grief and rage, Zuljara defeats the rival leader and claims leadership of the Amani, becoming a new symbol of strength for a broken people, even though the Loa have not truly returned. I mean, I get spoiler alerts, I guess. I don't know. I was like, I'm going to have to read this now to figure out how accurate that is. But, there's a whole discourse right now about female empowerment in video games. And I'm a big believer in, go for it. Let's do that. Let's give more people more options and broaden our base. It just needs to be done well. It's the difference between the girls get it done scene in Avengers Infinity War versus the girls get it done scene in Avengers Endgame. One was really well done. One was not. One was kind of clunky and ham-fisted. So, I'm fine with it. And the same goes in other directions too. If it's you know, if we're trying to empower somebody, I think that's good. But the story should stand on its own, aside from, hey, this is a person of color, or this is a female, or this is a, transgender, or whatever it is. Go for it, but make the story stand on its own. Not have the story be, hey, it's a woman and they're doing man things. Isn't that great? No, the story needs to be good. And also, it's a woman doing man things. That's fine. But the story needs to be good. So I haven't read this, but I'm like, this feels dangerous, but I'll allow it until I read it. So we'll see. All right. Finally, actually, we have two more things. First off, the mounted lumber harvesting achievements are available now. Everything is working as expected. You need 250 lumber from each of the different zones. So Kalimdor and Eastern Kingdoms, Outland, Northrend, Pandaria, et cetera, et cetera. You can farm lumber in Draenor now. Once you get 250, you'll get your mounted lumber harvesting achievement, which means that for that zone or for that area, you'll be able to harvest lumber while mounted. And it is retroactive. So if you've been harvesting lumber all this time, you might even actually already have some of these achievements. But yeah, you need to, you need to go and get your lumber. So anyway, so that's available. So for all your lumber harvesting needs. Okay, and finally for the news, there is a massive class tuning coming tomorrow, February 17th. On reset for midnight. Now, I normally don't do these sorts of things, but when they're like this, because we have one more week before early access, which means that Blizzard is still trying to fine tune these classes. And when I went through this one, some of these are pretty drastic, and you can kind of tell what their goal here is. I'm going to run through the classes that got some changes, just to kind of give you an idea of what we're looking at here. Unholy DK. They're still reworking this class. So they're trying to reduce the amount of damage that they're doing with the dots, but increase the damage elsewhere. That spec is a mess. I feel bad for Unholy DK mains. Blizzard obviously doesn't know what to do with it. So hopefully they get worked out in time for some enjoyment in midnight. So we'll see. Devourer Demon Hunter, damage reduced by 4% across the board. That's a 4% nerf across the board for all damage. Havoc Demon Hunter, damage increased by 5%. Now that's cool. I'm down with that. Balanced Druid, damage increased by 3%. Feral Druid, damage increased by 3%. Resto Druid, various damage spells have been increased, which is kind of weird. But I guess they're trying to balance the healer damage so that there's not like, here's the healer that does damage and everyone else stinks. Dev Evoker, certain spells have been increased, but overall their damage has been reduced. The Preservation Evoker, healing increased by 6%, which is great. And certain spell mana cost has been reduced. So Pres Evoker, well-deserved, well-needed buff. We'll see how that goes. BM Hunter and Marksman Hunter both had some slight damage reduction. Not huge, but enough that it's a nerf. Survival Hunter, though, got a big nerf, damage reduced by 4%, which is nasty. Sorry to Survival Hunters, which also, like Unholy DKs, they can't figure out what they want to do with them. So Arcane Mages, slight damage reduction. Frost Mage, so what they did for Frost Mage is they reduced the amount of damage baseline that your spells do. But they increased the amount of damage that your hero talents provide to you. So they're trying to lean more into the hero talents, which I guess makes sense, but I would rather just have the baseline spells do more damage, and the hero talents can be also a nice thing. But let's not forget the hero talents were introduced in the War Within, so it's not even like anybody really cares all that much about the hero talents. It's just, you're just checking the box that it says on Wowhead, honestly, 90% of the time. Mistweaver Monk, damage increased by 1% per level, which was weird. But certain spells have been reduced. And so for all of these healer classes, they're saying it's going to be like a 50-something% damage increase overall, which is good, I guess, for these classes, especially like a Mistweaver that heals by doing damage. But Windwalker Monk, certain spells were changing, but overall damage reduced by 10%. That is just brutal. I don't even know what Windwalker Monks did to piss off Blizzards on that one. Ret Paladin, damage increased slightly. Holy Paladin, same deal. Damage increased by 1% per level, but certain spells have been reduced. Discipline Priest, damage increased by 1% per level, but Atonement Healing has been reduced. It went from like 45% to 35%. So you're going to do more damage, but you're not healing as much, which is going to force you to rely on your other healing spells. I feel like that's a big nerf for Discipline. Holy Priest, same thing. Damage increased by 1% per level, but certain spells were reduced. Assassination Rogue, damage increased slightly. Subtlety Rogue, damage reduced slightly. Just kind of tweaking the knobs here. Elemental Shaman, damage increased slightly, but Chain Lightning has been reduced. That's no fun. I love Chain Lightning. It's such a fun spell. Resto Shaman, same deal. Damage increased by 1% per level, but certain spells reduced. The healers just, I don't know. I guess they're struggling with that. Demonology Warlock, damage reduced slightly. Destro Warlock, damage increased slightly, but Hero Talent damage reduced slightly. So it's like the opposite of the Frost Mage. Arms Warrior and Fury Warrior, damage reduced slightly. And Prot Warrior, damage increased slightly. They got an Execute buff, but a Colossus Hero Talent nerf. So I guess. Yeah, like I said, these are just the tweaks that they're doing last minute to try and make sure everything lines up okay. I mean, we've got a week and a half before early access, which means that people will be playing real Midnight at that point, leveling up, doing all the things. So I hope everything works well, and I hope everything feels good, because to me, I don't even care about the damage numbers as much. Like, obviously people do, and they're competitive. I just want the classes to feel good. And that's my biggest thing. So, all right, let's move on to what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. The bonus event for this week is, there is no bonus event? None? Oh, it was supposed to be time walking. Okay. All right, I'll let them know. There's no bonus event this week. It's supposed to be time walking. We might end up getting one, but it was time walking starting the rotation, and we just had the Turbulent Timeways, so there is currently no bonus event on the calendar. Now, as we learned with the end of Legion Remix, the calendar can lie. So we don't know. So maybe there's going to be a bonus event tomorrow when after reset, when you log in. I don't know. We'll find out. But it was supposed to be time walking. I don't even know whose turn it was on time walking, because everything is all messed up with the Turbulent Timeways, and we're going into new expansion. So yeah, no bonus event this week. The PvP brawl for the week is Arathi Blizzard. Put away your bathing suit, pull out your parka, and enter a winter wonderland as the Arathi Basin you know and love gets a fresh coat of ice and snow. You'll be racing your way between the farm, stables, mine, and lumberyard and blacksmith through piles of snow over a mostly frozen lake. One more thing, the weather forecast calls for a bit of fog of war. We hope you're prepared for the weather. So this one's really fun. This is like the OG PvP brawl. The coolest thing about it is you can run across the lake by the blacksmith. You can't look down on the blacksmith from the lumber mill. I don't know. It's just, I like this one. This one's fun. When you zone in, you'll get the quest Something Different to win a PvP brawl, and you'll be rewarded with Conquest, Honor, and Marks of Honor. So there you go. Okay. So let's start with the Lunar Festival. So the Lunar Festival is starting this week. It's actually starting today, Monday. Every year, the Druids of Moonglade hold a celebration for their city's great triumph over an ancient evil. During the Lunar Festival, citizens of Azeroth have the opportunity to honor their elders by celebrating their sage wisdom, sharing in magnificent feasts, and of course, lighting fireworks. It's a good run from February 16th to March 2nd, so it will kind of overlap the early access period of Midnight. But basically everything's the same as previous years. You run around, you get the coins from the different elders all over the world. You can find the on Wowhead, it shows you exactly where they all are in all the different zones. There's some new transmog that you can buy. It's just a recolor of the previous year's transmog, so nothing too exciting there. But Lunar Festival. Lunar Festival's fun, and you do get XP for those quests, I believe. So if you're trying to level up on alts, this is a good way to do it. If you don't feel like doing dungeons or anything. So and then we have the two events that are continuing on. We've got Winds of Mysterious Fortune that's running until February 24th. So we're going to get the bonus 20% bonus XP and 50% bonus reputation, as well as the different drops that can increase the XP from level 10 through 79. And then the Love is in the Air, which will run till February 23rd. So if you're trying to get your love rocket, you have until then to do so. And that's it. That's what's going on this week in World of Warcraft. All right, let's move on to our main topic of the week.
It's time for the main topic of the week.
All right. So I didn't prepare a full main topic this week, and this is going to be relatively short. I just wanted to talk about this because this is something that I've been thinking about a lot after the last round of interviews that we had with Holly and Ian, and this is the interview where Holly talked about Chris Metzen's statement that he wished they hadn't called it Warcraft, which I'm sure that they're just hating that she said that at this point. But one of the things that she said in that interview, which really struck me, was this statement that I talked about this last week, that there's not a lot of overlap between classic players and modern players. So people who play classic, that's all they play. And people who play modern, that's all they play. And I didn't feel like that made any sense. The more I thought about it, I'm like, there's got to be more players like me than there is who just play one version of the game. Like, I'll play a little bit of classic, I'll play a little bit of modern. That's got to be the common type of player. Well, I started talking to people, both in modern WoW and in classic. And the more I've talked to people, the more I realized that no, that's actually true. That people pick one version of the game and that's what they play. And so to give an example, I was talking to somebody in guild chat the other day about player housing and stuff, and they were like, when is that getting added to the game? And I thought, how do you not know that player housing is already in the game? I had a hard time wrapping my brain around the idea that people aren't as dialed in as I am on everything that's going on in World of Warcraft. And obviously that's not the case. People are doing their own thing. They're just logging on and playing WoW. So I was like, well, okay. So what is it that creates these distinctions, these differences between people? Because obviously there has to be a reason why. Why is it that you feel that classic is your game? Or why is it that you feel that modern WoW is your game? Obviously there's some technical differences, right? Modern WoW feels very different than classic. You have systems like Mythic Plus. You have Raid Finder, normal, heroic, mythic raids, delves, world quests, world events, pet battles. I mean, there are so many things that are available in modern WoW, although pet battles seems like they might be going away. You have so many things that are unique to modern World of Warcraft, and then likewise you have things that are unique to classic. You know, these old games, these old talent trees, these old spell ranks and things like that we don't have in modern World of Warcraft. So trying to understand what it is about people and why they play the games they play. I was talking to somebody in guild chat the other day, and they didn't know about housing. They didn't know about, they knew that midnight was coming. They knew that. But that was really the extent of their awareness of what's going on in the other side of World of Warcraft. And so it really made me think, what is it that's driving this? So in classic WoW. So let's start off at the beginning. World of Warcraft is a MMORPG. Everybody knows that, or at least most people know that. And that acronym is Massively Multiplayer Online Role-Playing Game. At its core, WoW is a role-playing game. And different versions of the game handle the role-playing aspect better than others. For example, I can go into modern WoW and roleplay all day long. And I can RP, as they call it, find groups of people. There's actually groups in the group finder that's all they do, is they just get on there and they RP. They take over a place like Gilneas. where Blizzard didn't give them this functionality. They just chose it. They made it themselves, and they said, we're going to do this, and we're going to take over Xal'atath, or we're going to take over this part of Borealis, or whatever it is. And then they find a zone and they go there. My kids used to do this, where they would get on and they would go to Xal'atath, and different people would be assigned different areas. Like, okay, you're the vendor in this room, and you're the innkeeper here, and they would all just play. And it's like kids playing, like when I was a kid, we'd all play in the jungle gym, but it's a different way of doing it. So this is all modern WoW. In classic WoW, one of the things that really drives people in classic WoW is the fact that your character feels like an adventurer. Hero, yes. Adventurer, primarily. You're going and you're doing things for a purpose. Everything you do has a purpose. I need to go clear this out. I need to go save these people. I need to go find this relic. I need to do these things. In modern WoW, the quests and the reasoning behind them feel secondary to here's your reward. In modern WoW, and in every version of WoW, you're doing things for a reward. Yes. But in modern WoW, it's more reward driven in that you don't do things without a reward. Everything in the game has to have a reward. Unless you are going in and doing something completely separate from what Blizzard has provided. All of the game systems that Blizzard has given us are reward driven. Every single one of them. The ones that aren't, like I said, people RPing in different parts of the world, you're just hanging out with your friends. You could be doing anything. You could be playing any game. You could be playing Minecraft. You could be playing Fortnite, and you'd still be hanging out with your friends. My youngest daughter plays Sea of Thieves with her boyfriend, and they go and they just hang out. They get a ship and they go sail the seas and fight other people, and they're hanging out. That's the goal. It's not we need to go and yeah, you want to get loot and you want to get stuff. That's part of it, but it's also just we're just spending time together. That's what they do. So there's not a ton of difference between the two in terms of what you get from one and what you get from the other. You're getting rewards, you're getting gear, you're getting items. It just feels like in modern WoW, it has become less and less about what you're doing and more about what you're getting. I can still go through it and figure out the story from what's happening, even in Burning Crusade, based on what I'm doing. I'm understanding what's going on here. Oh, okay, this group has taken over this area, and I'm helping these people out. And I just did the Nestingwary quest in the Grand. It's like, okay, well, they're hunters and they're here in this new world and they're trying to figure out all the stuff they can hunt. But I don't think that those particular distinctions create or draw different people in. I think there's some very distinct differences between the two versions of the game that allow people to choose one over the other. And once people have chosen, it's very hard for them to change, because just like when you started playing WoW back in 2004 or whenever, you've chosen, here's what I'm going to play, and you've invested time and energy into that character, and now you're playing it. So I think that a lot of people, once they've chosen something for some reason, like I like the combat better, I like the raids, or I remember playing it when I was a kid. I was 13 and now I'm 33. Okay, that's fine. And that's what you get from a lot of people. That's what they remember from before, from back in the day. There are people who stopped playing after Cataclysm and never came back, have never played Legion, have never played any of these things, but they're back playing the game because here's what I remember. And they don't want to play any of the modern WoW stuff. They don't want to check it out. They don't want to go, oh, let me just check out Midnight Road. No, they don't care. They don't care. Just like a lot of people who play modern WoW are like, I logged onto Classic one time, but I don't care because that's all old stuff. I like the new combat. I like the new raids. I like all the new systems, the gear upgrades, all of the things that we have in modern WoW. That's what they like. And so once you get into these ecosystems, it's really hard to break out. I can go back and forth between the two because I know both so well, at least in terms of the systems, maybe not the gameplay, but I know the system so well that I can flip back and forth between the two and understand, all right, I'm in Burning Crusade, so gear is important and I need to put on greens and blues. Whereas if I flip over to Midnight, it's like, why is my character so shitty with all of this veteran gear? You know, I need to have hero gear or I'm basically a nub. And so it's just a different mindset, and not everyone can do that. And I was kind of surprised by that. And I think this is one of the reasons why people are so frustrated with Blizzard's kind of handling of Classic WoW, or mishandling of Classic WoW. These people are frustrated because they want to know that their safe space, for lack of a better term, and I don't want to trigger anyone with that. I don't want to be all woke speak. The whole safe space thing. First of all, let me just sidebar here. There was I went to Pierce College in Los Angeles, is one of the community colleges there. I was taking night classes. You know, I was in my 30s, so you know, whatever. So I was taking night classes there, and one day I went onto the campus, and they had a little rectangle painted onto the concrete on the sidewalk there. It was probably about 20 feet long, 10 feet wide, and it said free speech square or whatever, free speech zone. And that's where you could stand and you could say whatever you wanted. No one could tell you anything. And I thought, isn't a college supposed to be a free speech zone where you can say anything you want and have these conversations? And anyway, every time I think of safe spaces, I think of that little square that they literally painted a square. It was literally a safe space. Sorry. So they want their home in Azeroth, and they're not happy with moving to retail. They're not happy with maybe staying in vanilla. Some people love vanilla and they'll play it forever. You know, there's still 15,000 people a week who raid on Classic era, because that's just what they love. This is what they do. That's where their friends are. That's where they go hang out. That's their spot. I personally, I wouldn't want to just live in vanilla WoW forever. You know, unless it's a Classic Plus type situation, then okay, that's fine. But so these people want a home because they are different. They don't want to move to retail WoW. And I think Blizzard is finally realizing that we can't just encourage everyone to move to retail, because these people just don't want to. And they'll just stop playing. If you take their home away, they'll just stop playing. So that frustration of what's happening to Miss Pandaria, what's happening after Burning Crusade and Anniversary, that's where it's coming from, is that people want to know, where is my home going to be? Am I going to have a place to live? And yes, it's probably going to be Classic Plus. That's probably what we're going to end up with. And we're probably going to get that announcement at BlizzCon. But until then, people are frustrated. They're like, do I invest my time into this one character over here, or do I take a break from WoW and come back in September when they announce whatever they're announcing? And that's why Blizzard is not telling us anything, because they don't want people to stop playing. If you tell people today, hey, Miss Pandaria is going to end after Siege of Orgrimmar. We're going to do Siege of Orgrimmar. You're going to get 6 months of that or 8 months of that, and then we're going to call it good. People will just leave. They won't even do it. They'll just be like, you know what, I'm done, and that's it. It's over. And they may or may not come back for Classic Plus. So if you string people along, which is unfortunately what they're doing, you can keep them around and keep these people engaged long enough to get the spot. You know, people in playing Modern WoW, they don't have that concern, because there's no worry that Modern WoW is going to go somewhere. It's just going. And every new expansion is just the new thing. You don't worry about, like, people aren't sitting around lamenting and wringing their hands like, oh, I really want Dragonflight Classic. No, nobody cares. It was like, we did Dragonflight, it was cool, we're moving on. There's no need, there's no draw, there's no push for any sort of classic version of, I'd say, the last 4 expansions. The only one that I've heard people asking for classic is Legion. And that makes sense. Legion was probably the most popular expansion, or the second most after Wrath of the Lich King. I wouldn't say it's the best. Legion had its fair share of flaws. And if I had to put it on a ranking somewhere, it probably wouldn't even be in the top 3. So yeah, I think Legion was good, and it told good stories, and it actually had a lot more of a classic feel to it in some ways, that now is just completely gone from the game. There is no more good storytelling in WoW. I can't tell you the last time I heard a good story in game in WoW. The cinematics are cool. Cinematics are always cool. But the stories are not great. So I'm not playing retail WoW for the stories. I'm creating my own stories because I'm playing housing. I'm creating rooms for all my different characters. I'm making my own stories because Blizzard isn't doing a good job of telling new ones, at least not in game. they're telling. I think Blizzard could make a great movie. If you stitched all these cinematics together, it would make a great movie, which they did, by the way, for the story of the War Within. They just stitched all the cinematics together and they go, here's the story. And it worked. It was good. But that's not really, it's not the game you're playing. The game we're playing is, it's basically a very fancy lobby game where you're going to do Delve, you're going to do Mythic Plus, and you have to go there, and that's fine. But for the most part, the content that we do, it's not really, it doesn't really matter what the story is. You know, the story of Undermine was probably the closest they've come to telling a compelling story. And like I've said before, Undermine felt like a side story in the main story of the War Within. Yeah, Xal'atath needed to go to the goblins to get the Dark Heart repaired. Yes. But that was it. The story was over. And then we had the raid, which was just, and also there's a raid. It didn't make sense. And I'm not trying to just dump on Modern WoW. I love Modern WoW. And I have so much time invested into it, but it doesn't really do a good job of drawing me in with, hey, look how exciting this is to have this RPG. That's classic. If you have a friend that you're like, hey, come check out this cool game, and they never played WoW before, maybe they've never even played an MMO before, and you have them start with Midnight, it's going to be so frustrating for them. And that's one of the problems that Blizzard has, and that's why Classic has been so valuable for them, because Classic does a better job of funneling new character or new players into the ecosystem of WoW than Modern WoW ever does. And I don't have numbers to back this up. I'm just going based off of my observations and intuitions. Maybe Blizzard has this data sheet and they're like, nope, Modern WoW gets 10% more new players than Classic. Fine. Maybe that's true, but it doesn't feel that way. Anybody new playing Modern WoW, they're always frustrated. They're like, this is too complicated. This doesn't make sense. New players in Classic, they're like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun and everyone's so nice and we're having a great time, and oh, I got this drop and I'm excited. It feels better. It's a easier on ramp, and I think in a lot of ways Blizzard has forgotten how to do that. So yeah, there are very distinct differences between Modern WoW and Classic WoW, and I don't think one is necessarily better than the other. I love them both, but they're very different. And honestly, in a lot of cases, it really depends on my mood, what I want to play. Sometimes I'll log into the War Within and I'll just sit there in Dornogal and go, yeah, I don't want to play this right now. And thankfully I can go log on to Classic if I so choose. But some people log into War Within and they say, well, I don't want to play this right now. And then they just log out and they go do something else. And I think that's unfortunate. So like I said, I just wanted to kind of ramble about this for a few minutes. I know that this isn't very coherent, but this is something that's been twirling around in my brain for a while. And I had this thought. I was like, what is the difference between these two classes of players? So anyway, give me your thoughts. Jump on the Discord. Tell me what you think about this whole idea of Classic versus Modern WoW players. Our Discord server, AzerothUnitedPod.com. Go ahead and get on there and talk about this topic, because I feel like it's an important topic that we as players need to understand. Blizzard is looking at numbers, but there's a heart and soul behind every single one of those numbers. And these players are making decisions for a reason. And I don't know that Blizzard actually knows what those reasons are. So anyway, all right. Sorry. Sometimes I'm allowed to ramble. It's my podcast. I can ramble if I want to. All right, that's going to wrap up our show for today. Thank you so much for listening and watching. I really do appreciate it. It is always a pleasure and a privilege for me to get on this microphone and speak to you. It's been fun. It's been fun, and like I said, 125 episodes in. These little quarter milestones are kind of nice, because it gives me some idea of where I'm at and how things are. I'm really enjoying the podcast, and I hope you are too. Please give me some feedback if you are enjoying or not enjoying the podcast. I had some people give me some negative feedback last week, and it was good to get it. And I try and make some adjustments, but I'm one person, and I can only talk about what I like and what I know. And there's a lot of people out there that You know, they are very angry, and I don't want to do an angry podcast. So if that's what you want, that's what you're looking for, this might not be the right place for you. So I hope you listen and stay, but if you don't want to, I understand. So all right, get that off my shoulder. You know, sometimes you get negative feedback. It's like, whatever, bro. Sometimes you get it and it's like, that doesn't feel good. Anyway, if you're enjoying the show, you'd like to help us out, you could consider leaving us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify. Those really help out the distribution. So gets the podcast out to more people. And I feel like that's good, because I'm really enjoying being able to talk to people. But, you know, if you don't want to, that's okay. But yeah, Apple Podcasts really helps out. Spotify helps out too, just not quite as much as Apple. For some reason, Apple is still the name of the game. Oh, by the way, I don't know if you guys saw this, but Apple Podcasts is going to start doing video now. So guess who's already on that boat? I know. It's annoying. It's a podcast, not a YouTube channel. Come on. What are we doing here? Anyway. Yeah. So reviews help. The ratings help. The reviews I'll read on the air if you leave one. And yeah, there you go. If you're watching this on YouTube, you can help us out by giving us a like, a comment, or a subscribe, or all three. All three would help out a lot. If you're already subscribed, thank you. If you're not subscribed, the demographics show that not all of you are subscribed. Whatever. I you know, that whole YouTuber joke. Sorry. Feeling a little punchy tonight. If you want to do a little bit more to help out the show, you could consider joining our Patreon. This is where people can give their IRL money to help out with the production of the show. And you can join in as a free patron. That's absolutely okay. Or you can join in as one of our two paid tiers. We have our standard tier and then our friend of the show tiers. We have a new patron this week. This is the Champ Z, or the Champs. I'm not sure if it's the Champ Z or Champs, but either way, welcome. I hope you enjoy, and you know, reach out and send me some feedback, or jump on the Discord server, or whatever you got to do. But thank you for joining our Patreon. You can get there by going to patreon.com/Azeroth United. And at this point, I'd like to thank our friend of the show patrons. These are the people who, like I said, they're giving their IRL money to help out with the production of the show, and it just, I don't know, that just means a lot to me. So our friend of the show patrons are Stug Life, Thelial, Greybeard, and Raven. Thank you so much for your support. You definitely help make Azeroth United possible. Okay, that's it. Thank you again for listening. Remember to be good to each other out there. It's a real person on the other side of that keyboard, and maybe they like classic, maybe they like retail. Either way, we're all having fun and playing a video game together, so it's okay to just be nice and smile and just nod. All right, take care. I love you all, and I'll see you on Azeroth.